Spaceman, the latest Adam Sandler film. I watched it, and then I thought, because I'm a professional and we're doing a podcast about this film, I watched it again, right?
Ooh, wow.
That might have been one of the strangest decisions of my life. I spoke about Dune Part 2 after, I think, having fallen asleep during it, but I watched the Adam Sandler film, Spaceman, twice.
Okay, so just to be clear, this is an after we watch review. We have two types of reviews: before we watch, after we watch. This means we've seen the film and we're going to be talking about spoilers. So with all that out of the way, Mercurial number 6, what did you think of Adam Sandler's Spaceman?
I think this film is trying to do something. I think it's a... Have you watched Marriage Story?
No.
Scarlett Johansson and...
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Adam
Driver.
Adam Driver. Kylo Ren. Is Adam Driver.
Adam Driver, yeah.
Right? That is a much better version of this film, and it doesn't contain any cosmonauts or aliens. But it's doing... See, what I got from this film was it was trying to be a sort of like a study of the breakdown of a marriage, I think. However, so I was seeing it as a kind of what do you call it when something is an allegory. I was thinking it was like allegorical, right? But actually, after it finished, after I watched it for the second time, I think it was just a literal film about a guy who's going out with a girl. They've got a few issues. He goes out into space, and he really does meet an alien. I spent the whole film thinking that it was all in his head, and I still think it probably is.
If I can interrupt, I will say that both the book and the director of the film have stated that Hanush is real.
Yeah, no, I didn't get that. At one point, Anush says, "You wish to know if I am real? I'm as real as you are." And then I had to think to myself, because I'm not sure that Adam Sandler is real. I've watched many of his films, and I'm not convinced this guy actually exists. So at that point, I'm really starting to think that this... Like, there's no way... Right,
well, it is an interesting
choice. There's no way
choice.
the spider is real in this film. There's no way it's real.
I will say, to interject this, an interesting choice to take someone in Adam Sandler who is known for being so charismatic that he's carried, whole film franchises on his back, and he's such a great actor that he plays an uninteresting, uncharismatic guy. They're like, wow, look at the range of this guy. You normally can't take your eyes off of him, and I'm bored to tears. Like, he's fantastic. I should probably change my background. Watch this. Let's get fancy. Let's get fancy with this, and let's go. Bam.
Oh. A large pair of testicles behind your head. That's beautiful.
With Adam Sandler in each one. Adam Sandler's in between each one.
Adam Sandler inside a pair of bleeding testes. This is
Alien.
lovely. I always wanted. This is how I've always pictured you.
Alien testicles behind my head. All right, I'm changing the background again.
No, it's good. No, it's good.
And now we're in the forest.
Oh, okay. That's the forest that the film starts and ends at.
That's correct. So, I was reminded of a film called Solaris, which came out in the 70s. I believe it was a Russian film. And the plot of Solaris was that a psychologist, I'll kind of truncate the plot because it's a little involved, but they basically go to this planet Polaris, and his dead wife shows up out of nowhere, and he tries to kill her because his wife's been dead for 10 years, and she keeps reappearing. And it's sort of coming to terms with what you've lost, and I won't go into the rest of the plot. If you haven't had a chance, I would highly recommend it. There was a Soderbergh remake in the 2000s, which I would recommend going back to the original film. I believe it's from the early 1970s. And I felt like that film did a lot of what this film did, but better to me. I didn't hate this movie. I would say overall it was well made. It was well shot. I'd say all the actors did a great job. I think even the script, if you're familiar with screenwriting, it was very Save the Cat, where like, oh, we're at the lowest point of the script now, and you kind of felt all the moments. And I thought it was all done well. It was all done very professionally. But I think And it could be due because I just read a Reddit thread of the movie. I haven't read any actual reviews of it. And some people loved this movie and were blown away. And I could see if you were in a life situation similar to Adam Sandler's character, why this film would be very moving. For me, it's like, okay, we're in space. There's an alien that's, I think they say, millions of years old. They have this weird substance around them that's going to like go around the Earth. I'm interested in all of that. And essentially, as you said, it was a movie. You know, it's kind of like, imagine Space Odyssey 2001 when he sees all the lights. Imagine going through like that for a half hour, and at the end, someone goes, "Don't be a dick to your wife."
Yes!
And you're like,
Yes!
And you're like,
Yes.
that is true. Don't be an asshole to people who love you. And I think the point of the film also was like, you know, your loved ones are more important than your passion and your whatever your profession and your job, which is all completely true. I agree with it. It's you know, sometimes revelation can be things that you've always known but forgotten. I agree with all of it, but I think because it was in space and they had all these interesting concepts and the way they film it, I like slow sci-fi. I didn't hate it, but I wanted some huge mystery answer, which isn't fair. You know, you put God in a movie and you can't actually have God on screen too much because no one knows what God is thinking. And so what I'm saying is if you have million-year-old creatures and all this mystery stuff, you can't really, it's hard to satisfy someone with answers. But essentially it was like, you know, if you told me going into this, hey, Bill, do you want to watch a movie about a guy who had a bad, you know, who's a bad husband and he learns to reconcile with his wife, I'd say no thanks. And there are plenty of people who love those kinds of movies. And maybe it's just at the place I am in my life, I'm doing all right. That I just, and maybe I'm just immature. I like sci-fi. I like a plot. And so I felt it was very well done. I mean, sometimes when we don't like movies, we trash them and make fun of them. And there's a little bit we can make fun of with this. But overall, I think everyone did well. Like, I don't think it's a bad movie. I just think the whole premise, if I would have known from the start, I probably wouldn't have watched it. Hanoush, if you spell it out, is heinous. Hanus. And I think it would be really different film if he was going, Anus, don't leave me. Hanus, don't leave me. No, where are you, Hanus? Where are you, Hanus?
Anus!
Hanus!
At one point, Anu says to Adam Sandler, he says, "You long for your mate only when she leaves."
Oh, you do that well.
Where was she? Where was this yearning when you were together? Basically, the whole film revolves around the idea of you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was trying to be deeper than that. But overall, let's talk about the good points, right? Because I'm kind of with you. I don't think we're that far apart on this. I thought it was quite a good... No, it wasn't. It was an all right film.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about some of the good points, right? So I agree with you that the acting was perfectly fine, right? So Lenka was played by Carey Mulligan. Now, she... I've always had a soft spot for this girl. I don't really know her. I haven't seen her in a lot of films, but she was in the greatest episode of modern Doctor Who called Blink. And any Doctor Who fans will know what I'm talking about. And she's so sweet in that. And she should have been the Doctor's ongoing companion, but it didn't happen. She decided to go to Hollywood and become a famous millionairess instead. So whatever. Adam Sandler. I don't often like Adam Sandler very much. I haven't really watched many of his films. Not really a fan. I thought he was quite good in this. Quite liked him. Yeah, quite liked him.
But it's weird because he was good at it, and I think this movie there was the bit where Hanoush liked the hazelnut. But it's funny because it's such a naturally funny guy, and he did such a good job that he's uninteresting. And I think that again, if you're going through similar things in your life. You know, it's a sad film, and I get why they're not doing jokes a minute, but it was dour to the point of kind of, I think it could have used a little more levity. I think because I've watched so many Alien films, I kept waiting to find out he was going to, like, eat his brain the whole movie, Hanoush. Like, I've secretly just been saying this so I could, like, you know, and he's full of parasites which eat him at the end, and yet they hug, and it's the sweetest moment of the movie. And you're wondering, well, does Adam Sandler now have, space fleas?
It's so weird because I didn't, even on both viewings, I didn't see I saw him as having a mental breakdown. I'll talk about this in a minute, but you've said that categorically the author of the screenplay and the book just say it's literal.
Yeah.
He meets an alien. So there's no... Well, no, do you know what? This is Ridley Scott all over trying to tell me that Deckard is a replicant. Just because the author tells me something or the songwriter tells me something doesn't mean I have to believe it. I'll take it my own way, right?
Yep.
But anyway, Anoush, right? Anoush, Paul Dano. I only know him as the Riddler in the Batman film.
He was also in There Will Be Blood. He was the preacher against Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I've ever seen it.
He's the one that you never saw. There Will Be Blood.
I'm not sure. I don't think I have. I think that's a film I need.
That's only one of the greatest films of the 21st century. That's fine. Wait, tell me that you've seen important movies, but do it in the Paul Dano voice. Like scold me, but do it with Paul Dano voice.
I've seen important movies. I guarantee I've seen more important movies than you have. So I like the acting. Is what I'm trying to get at there. I think also Ross from Friends is the woman that he wanted to put on his laminated card, but took her off at the last minute, and then meets her. Was in this film. Isabella Rossellini playing Tumor.
Well, I'd say more importantly, this. I think this is a huge thing about the film is he always refers to Adam Sandler as skinny human. He never uses his name, Jacob. And do you think if it was one of us, he'd be like, "I'm sorry, huge fat guy."
Yeah, I did. Right, because
huge
right.
fat guy. The beginning of the universe is outside the window. Huge fat guy.
Do you know what I saw that as, right? Because I never believed in the alien. I thought it was a figment of his imagination. And all the things it was saying were the only things that he could know. So if it's the id or the ego or whatever, and it's, right, I saw it as he was projecting back onto himself. His imaginative spider figment of his imagination was calling him skinny human. So Adam Sandler had issues with weight in his life. And when he finally conjured up a giant spider, he made sure it called him skinny human. But you're right. Because I'm self-loathing, you're absolutely right. My giant spider would just be up in the air with 10 legs going, "Oh, you fat bastard! You fat bastard!" I'd be like, "Oh, thanks very much, figment of my imagination."
I think that if I was in space and a giant alien spider called me a skinny human, I'd be so complimented that my depression would lift. I'd just be happy for the rest of the ship. I'm like, I guess I look pretty good. And then I wouldn't be depressed anymore. Now, do you think with going a little bit more into the filmmaking aspect of it, I didn't think the CGI for the spider, for Hanush, was bad, but I never for a second believed it as an alien. Now it's pretty much a spider, which is, and I know it's a little bit different, he talks, but I just never for a second thought this isn't, because, you're losing your suspension of disbelief while you watch a film. I never once thought this is real. And that's maybe it's budgetary. Like, again, I don't think the CGI was horrible. Sometimes you see it and it's so bad. Did you ever buy? And I guess you went with it's in his imagination. Did it bother you the design of the character, or?
Oh, do you know what? I see where you're coming from. I liked it. I quite liked everything about this film.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the visuals were good. So I thought the visuals were good. The acting was good. I thought the spider. Now I see what you're saying. I thought it was good. I thought the music was good. I thought the song at the end featuring Sparks.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah.
I liked everything. Do I have an issue with the CGI of the spider? You have to like it, don't you? You don't want a Jar Jar Binks moment where.
Yeah, it could have been way worse. So I don't think it was bad.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good. Are you saying you thought it was okay?
It's filmed in a very slow sci-fi way, in a very Solaris meets 2001. I've heard people even reference Interstellar, which I don't think Interstellar is such a huge film. I mean, as far as like the filming goes, it's grandiose. But so yeah, the spider just kind of felt out of place to me.
I thought it was a little bit BBC rather than Hollywood. At this point, I'd like to put on screen the first episode of Modern Doctor Who, where the recycle bin eats one of the main characters. I'll do that now.
Well, what's funny is that I've never watched modern Doctor Who, but my favorite, me and my dad used to watch Tom Baker, I believe.
Tom Baker, the greatest
yeah.
with the scarf. And the
Yeah,
hat.
and also I would say had the greatest theme song. Maybe of all shows, it's of all time with the theremin and the analog synthesizers. But like, yeah, I remember we'd watch that, and I remember they had 3 props, and so you had that green slime, you had the bot, and they were all clearly on a sound stage the whole time. So they just had to incorporate the green slime for every episode, But it was great. It was fantastic. But I think, with this one, I think when you have everything else looking so pristine. So, if Doctor Who, Tom Baker Doctor Who looked like Interstellar, and then a trash can came out going, destroy, destroy, it would very much be like,
right. Tom Baker Doctor Who, if it was done in 2023, 2024, that's probably not a bad... But, Tom Baker Doctor Who always let itself down. My favourite ever... series was the Genesis of the Daleks. It's good all round.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's kind of equates the creation of the Daleks to kind of Nazi Germany and stuff. It's really good. But at one point, just when it's all going really well, at one point they get attacked by a giant clam. And it's like a big polystyrene clam comes out, and they're like, oh my god, and you're thinking, just walk around it. Walk around it.
Now, I would say, though, and one of the reasons I never watched the new Doctor Who is I prefer old British 1970s soundstage over early 2000s CGI. Like, I can suspend my disbelief more with a trash can and a clam
you're right.
than I can with, bad computer graphics.
What do you call that valley thing?
Uncanny Valley.
It's almost like, I know that relates directly to humans, but it's almost like an uncanny valley thing where sometimes the polystyrene monster is better than a CGI monster.
Yeah, what's
just
the
not quite right?
What's
just
the saying?
Not quite right.
If they think you're a fool or something, don't open your mouth and prove it. There's a saying for that, like if you're a foolish person, then and I think that when you already are going into it it's like playing old role-playing games, and you if you go into it knowing you're going to have to use your imagination, you can do it. But when they sort of get it halfway there, they definitely prove that this isn't happening. Like the green screen stuff. It's like, if you ever had any doubt, now for sure this is not happening. And so to go back to the movie we're actually reviewing, Spaceman, I didn't think it was bad, and I think...
Can I interrupt you for 1 second, right? And just
no,
ask
I'm going to
you,
keep... No, I'm just kidding.
Just so I want your opinion on this. If I tell you what I think the film's actually about, right, and you tell me whether... And I haven't read anything about it. This is just from watching it twice. This is what I think this film's actually about, and this is a good thing, right? This is on the side of me being able to talk myself into this film being really good, right? This is about a man who has issues with becoming a father, right? Mm-hmm. Because we get flashbacks. It's hard to quite know what's going on. But his father was involved in he was like a communist party informant.
Yeah.
And there's a flash of a scene. And I had to pause it a couple of times. It's just there for a flash. And his father's torturing someone in like a garage. This naked man's chained up and he's being tortured. And then shortly afterwards, I think the community or somebody sets the whole house on fire. And Adam Sandler admits that as a result of his father dying, I believe, as a result of all this, he gets thrown into a river. So he is having to deal with, as an adult, with a father, although he probably loved his father, everyone else hated him, but he thought his father was a good man doing bad things.
Yeah.
So he is spending his life trying to make up for the bad that his father did. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure he wants to be a father. I think this is a man who's with a woman and things are going on there for like the bad things we said, the miscarriage and that, but also the fact that she's going to have his baby. And I'm not sure when he goes into space, I'm talking myself into liking it now. When he goes into space, he is actually, we all do this. I'm certainly doing this quite a lot at the moment. There's a way of like leaving your life behind in your mind, right? But he's doing it literally by going to Jupiter. So Is there any truth in what I've just said, or do you not get any of that at all?
No, I totally get it. And I would say that I think the plot of the movie, or the theme of the movie, is that your loved ones are more important than your job. But I think that his main block, if you will, from achieving true love and being a committed person in a happy relationship was his feelings about his father. Like, I think that's the thing he had to get through in order to be there for his wife and be a father. He had to get over, and it's like, if you think about it, if you go to therapy, they're going to say, what was your childhood like? He had to get over what he felt about his own dad to be a good dad himself. And I think, I thought they did that well. So it's like hard, because I can't complain too much, because I think it's a very well made movie, and I agree with that theme that you should get over the sins of your parents, and you should put your family before you put your career. I feel like because it's in space and the way the movie was set up, I would have taken that message more with if I don't know, there was a little bit more.
If it wasn't set in space,
well, no,
with
like
a giant
yeah.
spider.
And like the problem, like I said, is if it was, I didn't watch that Adam Driver Scarlett Johansson movie because I'm just
much
not
better.
Well, it's just not
Same
my
kind of theme, but
I remember, I don't know, it was Revolutionary Road similar. That was the last, probably, just two couples fighting and
is that just a
figuring
road
out.
that spins round?
Yeah, with Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. Revolutionary Road. I get it.
Can I one before you try and sum the film up, because you were going to, right? Can I ask you one more thing, right? This is why, to me, it's not clear cut that any of this is real, right? So he goes. He's a cosmonaut. He's been spoken to by the guy out of the Big Bang Theory, who's also perfectly fine. But it's made clear straight away that because of his noisy toilet, his noise, that thing you pee and poo into.
I like that you had to define what a toilet was. So anyone here watching from the woods,
it sucks. It looks like a vacuum cleaner.
Anyone who watching this from the woods who's never used a toilet, I'm glad you explained that to them.
No, man, because it's like a hose pipe thing that because you're in space, you've got to like.
That isn't what your toilet's like.
Right, and then it's got a grinder on it, like one of those things you put in the sink that in posh houses. You bet you've got one. One of those grinder things in a sink.
No, I do not have a grinder in my sink.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, he so does.
I do not. I've never had a trash compactor, and that's what it's called.
A trash compactor, right? So it's like a trash compactor, right? And they show early on that right. So that is making noises at all times of the day and night. Not that there is a day and night, but you know what I mean? All times of the day and night. So Adam Sandler visibly looks terrible in this film, sleep deprived, right? Totally sleep deprived. And he makes an issue. He talks to the Big Bang Theory guy a few times. You need to fix this toilet. It's just keeping me up all night. He's on these sleep drugs. Have you taken your drugs? Have you taken your drugs? So so not only is he sleep deprived, but he's taking these drugs, which I believe are some sort of hallucinogens or something, right? He's in isolation. He's already been described as peculiar. He's isolated. I think he's getting cabin fever. So he's sleep deprived. He's got a kind of isolation thing going on. He's on drugs. And then we're supposed to be surprised that a spider crawls out of his eye, comes out of his nose, and then grows immediately to the size of one of those teddy bear things that you win if you're really good on the coconut.
Let me devil's advocate. Well, at that point, Hanush has been on the ship, so maybe he saw Hanush out of the corner of his eye, and that's his subconscious showing him that like he can't escape seeing him, like he can't just make him go away.
Well, what? So I see it after everything I just said about the sleep deprivation and everything, as. And I thought this was what I was supposed to think. I've got to say, I thought I was supposed to think this, right? Especially on the first viewing, that the spider's a figment of his imagination. The way it talks to him, the knowledge it's got, the fact that if it's real, Big Bang Theory guy has got no idea that it's on the spaceship.
Well, I think that's what's tough about like a director and writer just saying, yeah, it's real. Like David Lynch isn't like, the whole thing's just about TV.
Yeah, don't explain.
Like,
don't explain.
Yeah,
it in
that's
some
what I'm saying.
respects, because I enjoyed the film more.
Yeah, and now that you know it's real,
They've
it makes
ruined
it
it.
shitty.
It's like it is like Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott's a looking out for this as well. You know, you think you like a film, and then Ridley Scott says, "Nah, Harrison Ford is a robot all the way through." It's like, for God's sake, how does that make any sense? Oh, because of the unicorn? No, it makes no sense. Why? How Rutger Hauer's speech?
Do you think
to
Deckard
this means nothing if he's a robot?
Do you think Spaceman could have used some Harrison Ford voiceover? You know, the shitter was broken again.
Yeah,
and I couldn't sleep. The spider told me that I needed to be a better husband, but I couldn't concentrate because the shitter was so loud.
Oh, God. It was worth doing this episode just for that. I'm cutting that out. That's a short. That's a 7-second short.
The voiceover is so bad for Blade Runner.
I tried to watch that Mother film, with Jennifer Lawrence. Very similar kind of, to me, when I thought it was all in his head.
I've heard of that, yeah. Now, because,
very similar vibe, until you realise that the authors said, no, he really did go up into space, and he really did meet a giant spider.
Now, if I said to you, hey, you want to watch a movie where a guy is getting over dad issues, and to make his relationship better with his pregnant wife, and his buddy comes over to the house and explains to him that he's been self-absorbed and narcissistic and he needs to take her first, and it's 2.5 hours, would you sit down and watch it?
I see where you're going. Or would I rather it was in space with a giant spider?
Well, it's like, no, his buddy's now a spider, and it's like I like all the trappings, and it's not fair because I think there are people that would sit down for that movie and love it, and I think if you do, there's nothing. That's awesome. I'm just saying if that's and like to give them some grace, I didn't watch any trailer for the movie. I saw, you know how when you go on Netflix, you go on Netflix and you hover and it plays just a random scene. Like I don't know how they pick the random scene on Netflix when you hover over it, and I was like, oh, and I thought that the spider was going to eat his brain at some point. So that says something about me as a person that I wanted to watch that. Did you think the tone of the movie was thrown off when he was out in space and that guy floated by and went, "You can do it"? Kind of took me out of the film for a minute.
I've got to say, when it comes to like the author now having said it's all literal and it all happened, right? None of it makes sense. Like so at the end he goes out, he follows because they have a bromance, and I agree actually. The hug he has with the giant spider,
it was moving,
is lovely, right? Then they both go out and they float around in the cloud. So I've got one question about that in a minute, the cloud, because I think we need to address that.
Just like Superman and Lois.
Yeah, kind of.
And the Richard Donner Superman.
Yeah, I think right. I was just thinking of Terry Hatcher. Yeah, that's good, right? So they float around a bit, and then South Korea come along, I think, and pick him up.
At least it wasn't North Korea, am I right?
Yeah,
that would have been bad. That would have been real bad.
Imagine being lost in space, right? Millions of miles from home, right? Just lost there, floating around, and then North Korea come along. You'd be like, from bad to worse.
Oh yeah, Kim Son-un just staring at you from the space.
Do you know what? At the end, the most kind of horrifying bit for me, because I've got an issue with these damn things. Hanush at the end kind of they crawl out of him, and it turns out they were there all along, even though I believe it's in his imagination. The maggots kind of just eat him in real time, just millions of them, and just consume him, and he just disappears.
I think that was a metaphor for STDs and figuring out your partner. I didn't tell you that I'm covered in space maggots.
I found that I found that bit horrific. I think
you think?
I think it was supposed to mean something.
And it was a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift because it's that part in the movie. It's the self-sacrifice. You know what it is? It's you go ahead. I'll hold them off. No, and then he like pushes the thing so like he can't go, and then he fights him off and dies.
Yeah,
but he had to get eaten by maggots, and it's hard because like it's not John Williams, but it's sort of the John Williams crescendo music's playing, and the lights are all pretty, and then he beautifully gets eaten by maggots.
Yeah, that
and they did it in a way horrific. That they did it in the least horrific way they could, in that it was like he just went. Like, imagine that scene. Yes. I thought about this. Imagine the scene, right? So they're going, do the voice, because you do the voice better, right? So say to him, "No, it's my time," right?
No, it's my time.
And then what if he just started going,
Yes, that's good. That's good. You're right. This is one of those films, right, where I think the majority of people, honestly, I think the majority of people will watch this film and at the end of it go, right? But I think it's a sort of film where, as a group of people, when you talk about it, you can build it up to be more than the sum of its parts. I don't know. Here's one for you, right? What does the Chopra cloud represent? Literally or in the mind. The beginning and the end of everything. It turns up. So I get it. I get from it literally. I hate the literal interpretation. I get from it literally that the nearer you get to this cloud, your memories all happen at once, like Watchmen style, Dr. Manhattan. You see the future, the present, and the past all at the same time, and all the universe is there, but all it really means to you for some reason is that you see the first time you met your wife. What do you think it represents? Because I think that's probably the literal
they talk
take.
about I think if you think about your life, and I think if you think about this character, and the main message, if we are saying that part of it is not to take the passion for your day-to-day job and follow that so much that you lose out on the people that you love. And so I think what they were attempting to do was, if you think about your job and you think about your day-to-day life, it's a very moment-to-moment thing. Right now we're doing this podcast, so we got to finish the podcast, we got to do this, and you lose sight. I will say, after we're done, I'm going to go play soccer with my son outside. But I think the cloud was a way to, they literally in the movie.
He can only do that because I'm going to spend hours editing this podcast. Let me just make that clear.
It's true. While you're editing, I will be outside and my son will be hugging me and we'll be kicking the ball to each other, and it's going to be beautiful. But anyway, so I think that by taking away time, that the whole time is an illusion thing, it's just forcing you to take a totality look at not only your whole life, but your place in the universe and how brief our time is, and like to see yourself as a whole, which I think, everybody once in a while in life needs to sort of stop and do a check about these things, because life can just be problem to problem to problem, and it can be easy to lose sight of the big picture. So I think it was just a metaphor there to force him to look at the big picture of who he was and to realize it's okay. We're all going to die, and that's kind of okay. And as much as we're self-important, I mean, I have children, so maybe they'll tell their grandkids. I hope I get to meet my grandkids, so maybe they'll know who I am, and maybe they'll briefly tell their kids about me. So it's like, how many generations before no one on Earth knows I even existed? Like, as much as I love this podcast, I don't think they're going to be sitting here in the year 2100 going, "What did Bill and Six think about Spaceman?"
Mate, they don't even care what we think today. Never mind that year. This video's got 17 views written all over it. What I would say is I preferred this film to Dune Part 2.
You're shitting me.
No.
Now that is sacrilegious.
No, I did. And this film wasn't that good. I
would rather you told me your mom joke I used against you earlier in the episode than you telling me you thought this movie was better than Dune 2.
Oh, I don't think it's not better, but I think there's something in all films. I'm not sure, honestly, that this film was very good. A lot of money chucked at it, a lot of acting, a lot of effects, a lot of music. Everything was there for this film to be really good. And
Are you talking about Spaceman or Dune?
Spaceman.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this film had everything going for it, apart from what was actually eventually created, which was a little bit like...
No, my thought on it is this. Well-made everything, well-crafted everything, professional job. I'll forget about it in a week.
Yeah. What is it with giant spiders and giant worms? Can we watch a film next that doesn't have any kind of giant insect in it.
I hate to say it's not an insect, but we're going to review the Crow trailer right after you
Oh,
stop.
Crow. Yeah. So, overall, I'm going to give it a score. Why not? I'll give it a score.
Yeah.
Let's give this film a score. I know you're not giving scores, but I've decided I'm going to start giving scores. I'll give this
6
film
anuses out of 10.
Yeah, okay. I will. I'll give it.
I
I'll
don't
give
think
it
it's
6. I'll give it. What were you going to give it?
I hate scoring it with numbers.
Oh, go on. Who cares? We can change the score next week. Are you going to go lower than a 5?
No. I'd say 6.5 out of 10.
Oh, well, we might as well do percentage then. We don't have to. We can drop the point.
Yeah, I could say
So you go for
65%.
I'll go for.
Math whiz.
I'll give it. Do you know what? Oh, it just felt a bit like, when you do you have like do you remember when you used to have glass bottles of Heinz tomato sauce, tomato ketchup?
Yes, I do actually.
And then you used to do that.
Yeah.
You'd have to do that, and then there'd always be a lot left in it, but you just couldn't get it out.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it. Like, oh, sod it. This film was a bit like that.
It made you
Can I give it
constipated.
that?
This film
Yeah,
made
just-
you constipated.
Yeah, it doesn't need a score. If anyone wants to know what I thought of this film, just imagine me smacking the base of a glass sauce bottle.
My
Cool.
tagline for the film would be, "What about the space stuff?" Because they didn't really go into it as much as I wanted, so that would be my tagline.
No, I didn't.
Well, that joke landed well. That's a great way to end the episode. I think we should end the episode on that. That went over so well.
Until next time.
Over.
And
So I'm going to start Mercurial number 6 with some just the facts that I've missed that we used to do, and so the idea is we're gonna learn some stuff, and hopefully I'll be able to make you laugh. Although I must warn you that my first fact is the first time in the history of the show that I'm worried I may just offend you with. So normally I worry about offending someone in the audience. This first fact I worry that I'm going to offend.
right,
you.
as long as you're not going to be slagging the English off, we'll be all right.
Not the English, but maybe your mother.
Oh, okay. That's
okay?
fine. That's fine.
All right.
Yeah,
You ready?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. The deepest humans have ever drilled into the Earth is 12,262 meters. The deepest anyone has ever drilled into your mom was me. But this was not measured in meters, but in oh my gods.
How did I know? For the minute you started, I knew where that was going.
If it makes you feel any better, she couldn't remember my name. She just kept referring to me as right there. Please don't stop. We measured in oh my gods. Okay.
I think we call it a day there. That's the best podcast we've ever done.
I think we got through that. I think we're all right. Okay, you ready for another one?
Yeah.
The old Duke rate, a legal loophole that allows electric consumers in South Carolina to pay the same rate for electricity that they have since 1966. This is not to be confused with the Dookie rate, which is the going rate of a piece of Dookie in South Carolina. $12? It was $10 for a piece of Dookie just last week. This is ridiculous. In this economy, a man can't buy a piece of Dookie no more on a week's paycheck.
Dookies.
You spoke of the British. Here is a British fact for you.
Well, can't wait.
Are you ready? Some Old British medicinal plant names have the suffix wort, with the first part of the name indicating the type of problem, giving us names like liverwort, spleenwort, throatwort, and premature ejaculation wart. Today, I learned that sperm whales are named after sperm. Seamen opened a sperm whale's noggin and thought the oily substance was semen. Man, those guys were a bunch of dicks. And for my last fun fact, and this sounds like something I'd make out, but this is completely true, that Pilates is named after a person, and this is completely true. It's named after Joe Pilates. I always thought Pilates was Latin for OW!
Oh.
That's all I got.